Hey children, today this is going to be the last in our series of eating, right? We've already looked at when do we eat, with whom do we eat, and what do we eat, and all that. And today we're going to look at how we eat. Yeah, this was one of our responses that we got last time as to do you think how we eat is important? And we got this response with 95% children saying that yes, how we eat is important. And I got very interesting answers as to why people think how we eat is important. And just a small percent, 5% said that how we eat is not important. Well, let's see. I feel that how we eat is important, and let me try and convince you all that the small 5% who feels it's not important, how we eat is important, and it does make a difference in how we look at things eventually. So when we talk about how we eat, I would like to look at it as what do we do before we eat, what do we do while we eat, and what do we do after we eat, what, how. A whole lot of things about the whole process of eating, having food, meals. Now, this was our response to the question that we had asked a couple of weeks back as to what do you take into consideration when you choose to eat? And of course, most of us have answered as taste is the most important thing. Definitely, when we're hungry, we do think of taste, and we also think of what can give us instant energy, right? I mean, imagine a time when you're hungry and you would think of food, you would think of the most, food that would give us a lot of energy instantly. I'd like to have pizza with a lot of cheese on top of it. I personally think that when I'm hungry, I'd like to have this death by chocolate with a lot of ice cream and nuts on it, with hot chocolate poured, instant energy. Yes, taste plays a very important role for all of us, and other things have have equal importance. Something like how much we eat and what does it have? Does it have proteins? Not always we think about it. When we're hungry, we just like to eat. And what kind of what do you want to eat? Would you want to have a dish you love, or you want to eat something and move on? And these are the responses that we got. So what preparation do we do before the meal times? Do we officially close and tell our brain that, okay, I'm going to get into the next activity now, and I'm going to close what I'm doing? Or do I just take a couple of minutes off and eat and come back and continue what I'm doing? Do you say close your books? Okay, I'm going to have my lunch or dinner or whatever and come back. Do you say bye at chats, or do you just say, hey, I'll be right back and not tell what you're going to do? Or do you close the running apps, the apps that you don't need anymore? Do you close? So it's like officially closing down what you're doing so as to start a new event, that is of having your food, and then get back to what we're doing. So do you really close it officially? Do you keep your pens, paper back in place, or keep a bookmark so that, okay, I'm going to come back here? In some ways we are in mentally preparing it. Okay, this activity that I was doing right now is closing, and I'm moving on to having meals, and then I'll come back, either resume or I'm going to start off with a new activity. Okay, so how do we actually do? What do we do before we start eating? Now, if each time we do not do these preparations, and what would happen if these preparations are not done, or what would happen if these preparations are different each time? Under what circumstances would preparation be different each time? Can you think of something? I had also asked this question sometime back in one of our forms about you use mobile chat or video or whatever. What do you do while eating? And I'll show you the response in a minute. So, green represents eating with family and chatting with family. It's such a lovely thing. I'd love to really believe it. And I suspect that smaller children have given this answer more than older children. But 43%, 43.5% do eat with their family and chat. That means it's a proper meal time when everybody is getting together, because you have to eat together. You have to look at everybody's time, and there's some plan, some time decided that this time we're going to eat. 32% children said that they watch TV while eating. Actually, almost 90% of children I have spoken to tell me that they eat while watching TV. So that's the time they get to watch TV. There's a small percent, 8.6%, that feels that they just eat alone and doing nothing. Okay, the pink color is read storybooks. So some people read storybooks, and look at that, reading newspaper on tiny chuttu puttu smallest one. So nobody reads newspaper while eating. Anyway, most people tell me that it all comes digitally. You don't need a newspaper. But anyway, so this is what we do when we eat, and these are the responses that we got. Now, when we eat, when we do the same thing every day, every meal time, or we do different things each time. Suppose I watch TV sometime, or I eat with family sometime, or I eat on my table sometime, and each day it's a different story. What all do you do before or during the meal, or even after, consciously, and what do you do unconsciously? What would comprise conscious and unconscious activities while eating? For example, what spoon to put into which curry would be an unconscious act, whereas where do I keep my plate back, or what all do I arrange before I eat? Suppose I sometimes eat at my at the dining table. A whole lot of things are set. Dining table is a place to eat, but if I eat sometimes at my table, study table, I have to make sure that my notebook is away, and nothing spills on my notebook, or nothing spills on the bed, or something is spilled, I'll have to clean. So a whole lot of things have to be done consciously. A whole lot of activities around eating would have to be done consciously. Whereas if it's the same thing that we do every day, then same place, if we have a routine, then we actually do a whole lot of stuff unconsciously. So, well, let's look at what happens. So, if the number of things that we do consciously each time, each meal time increases, each time I have to think what all I need to do, what are we actually spending time on? I mean, these are something that are mundane. We do every single day, and we have to think of small things. Where do I keep my plate? Where do I keep my table? Where do I keep my books while eating, so that things don't get soiled? These are things that I need to create consciously each time. No? This is the response we got to our form, which where the question was, where do you like to eat? And 46% of children said on the dining table. Wow, lovely. Dining table. As you see, dining table, a whole lot of things set, right? We don't have to worry too much about things. But then we had 16% of children who said anywhere, wherever you are at that time, because don't spend too much time thinking of what to eat. So whatever you get, you eat it wherever. And 14% children say they eat on the sofa, and I'm presuming that this is because they will be watching TV and eating, right? And there's a small percent of children who eat in their room alone. Someday we'll handle that about what happens when you eat your meals alone. But we know that a whole lot of children would eat in different places, different time. Each time it's not just on the dining table. Yeah, once in a while, as I said earlier, once in a while, picnic or friend's place is fine. But if you have to do this on a regular basis, then we're spending a lot of time creating what we do before, after, and during times, right? And guess what's the most important thing about how we eat? It's about paying attention to what we are eating, right? So if we are thinking about things that are not around eating, then we take our attention away from what we are eating, right? And paying attention to what we're eating, or for that matter, anything else, is called mindfulness. Yeah, and mindfulness pays all the time. Mindfulness helps us to gauge what we're doing, be in the present. And we looked previously how important being in the present is, right? So when we have a system in place, we actually make the body work for us rather than we working for the body, because the body has needs, we have needs around us. And if we have a whole lot of things in place, then our body will work for us, our mind will work for us to move forward. Because if you look at evolution, how far we've come from how animals and birds are, right? How every other species on earth is other than just us. And what makes us so different? Because we took to thinking more than just spending time on eating. We wanted to do something more creative, and that's how we have come up to this stage where men and women, as human beings, we've come so far from how all the other species are in such a short period of time. No? And so, if we have a system for doing most of the mundane work, do you think we would get more time to think of something more creative? Because if I'm a whole lot of things happens unconsciously, I can actually create something. New ideas might pop up when we're eating, or you're onto some project and something brilliant might come up while we're eating, because a whole lot of things are set in place and we're not really spending my time thinking of what all we need to do before and after, or have I closed my chats, or do I get back and then I have to respond to somebody, or things like that. So everything is closed, we're eating, paying attention to eating, and then that's a time that we have completely to ourselves. What actually is there in eating right? What does eating right actually mean? I think it just means to have discipline in eating, to have some kind of discipline, to have some kind of routine, to have some kind of a system in place, so that our precious time and our energy and thoughts are not spent on doing something which is mundane. While we also make food to work for us, we also make our body to work for us. Hmm? And finally, this is the response we got for when do we eat? We eat at meal times. Yeah, large percentage has said we eat at meal times. Such a beautiful thing, lovely indeed. And we have a small percent, 17%, who felt that they just eat whenever you're hungry. Which is also okay if there's a system of where you eat and everything around that is in place, then that's also okay. Whenever I'm hungry, I eat. That's fine. But then we don't cater to a body clock. But I know as senior students, especially senior class children who have so much of demand from themselves about their marks and homework and assignments, it's not always possible to break everything and okay, 1 o'clock, break everything, close and go and eat. Sometimes it's not possible. But as much as possible, if we can have a routine around whatever we're doing, that's good. And then we have 16% children who are like, okay, parents are calling ABC, come have food. Okay, wait, I'll just be back, okay? So they take a break from what they're doing and they come back and eat. But again, if there's a routine around everything else that you're doing, except for the fact that parents are calling, then that's also fine. So, mm, eating right would involve having a routine as much as possible so that the body works for us. We respect our body clock and we also respect how the brain would want to work, because we want the brain to work for us. Yeah. And finally, what we eat, when we eat, where we eat, and how we eat matters. Yeah. Yeah, it does matter. While we have all this discipline around eating, do you think that if we could have the same approach to studying, life would be different? How we approach studying, just the way as how, when, where, and with whom, and all that same thing. Do you think that would make a difference in how we can grasp stuff better, able to reproduce stuff better, keep things in memory much better? Worth thinking, huh? I feel definitely. And so, where, what, when, and how we study matters. Because just like we spoke about eating, if we have to recreate everything each time, and life would be so much simpler if we had a routine around it. If we have a place where we study, so that as soon as you go to a place, we think about whatever homework has to be done. Instead, if we have, your social media open, or your something else open, you would have to keep all that away. And we are actually diverting our energies into creating all that is needed before we study. And imagine the precious time, energy, and most importantly, our intelligence that we're wasting on doing things which are not necessary, which we could actually start off with, preparation as soon as we even think of studying or even restudying. So, if we can just tweak a little bit and make sure that how we eat matters, we can probably apply that to everything else in life. Wow, wouldn't that be fruitful? Yeah.